Welcome back to the Titanium Hangar. Happy Friday. I hope everybody's doing well today. This is Mike, and today I want to talk to you about Legends versus Masterpiece. Now, I've made videos like this before, but they were more kind of targeted, different discussions. This video is going to be a little bit more along the lines of kind of identifying if you want to collect one or the other, or if you're on the fence, which one you want to collect. Hopefully, I go through these talking points and it kind of helps guide you one direction or the other, because I do know that the vast majority of people that are collecting Masterpiece or Legends are steered in one direction or the other and are making that decision. But as somebody who's collected Masterpiece since the beginning and been on board with Legends for about 4 years now, I have a little bit more insight into talking about this topic and a different opinion about it slightly than I did 4 years ago. But we're going to talk about this and more coming up. So first thing I want to talk about is scale, and I wish this picture would have come out better than it did. I thought it did come out better than this. Anyway, scale is a big, important factor, and it affects a lot of things. But when you look at collecting a Masterpiece Transformer, you're generally in the 9-inch to 10-inch scale for the bigger bots. Smaller ones can be, well, as small as a Legends figure, but sort of in this range here. Legends figures, for the most part, unless you're talking about combiners, which we'll talk about in a bit, the Legends figures are about 4-inch and smaller. And for the most part, you're getting a figure that is not just half the size, but about a third of the size. Takes up about a third of the space. And we're going to get into pricing here in a bit, but when it comes to scale, scale means different things to different people that are looking for something different in their collection. Here's an even worse picture that I took. The thing with me is when I think about collecting Transformers in the modern era, I kind of think that just in general terms, Transformers are big. They should tower over your other figures. I know a lot of mainline figures, 7-inch Super 7 G.I. Joes or something, are going to be barely shorter than this guy, than the Masterpiece. But in my mind, 3.75 dominated the 80s and a bit into the 90s, and there's still a little 3.75 around now. And for me, a 3.75-inch Joe next to a Masterpiece Optimus Prime or something around that scale, it feels right to me, and it always has, and this is a point I've talked about in the past. But 3.75-inch figure next to a Legends doesn't quite feel right, but that's one angle to the topic. So the other angle of the topic is how much stuff can you cram on a shelf, and here's another terrible picture of mine. And with that, there is Storm Shadow, like a little bit off to the left in there. And just showing scale and how much stuff you could fit on this one shelf. I used to have Masterpiece on this exact shelf. And I had about 12 Masterpiece figures, and they looked pretty good. This is crowded. This is overcrowded. But there's no way I could get even half this number, or maybe not even a third of this number of Masterpiece on this shelf. But I feel like this looks pretty good to me when I look at it, and I enjoy looking at this display. And I've got, I don't even count how many are on here. Now, a few are missing because they're still in the review space for another review I'm doing. But for the most part, this is all of it minus about 6 or 7 figures. And you can fit a lot of Legends. So you have a lot more space that you can utilize for your Legends than Masterpiece. Masterpiece would take up much, much more space. Now, getting into combiners, you saw on that shelf there, I did have these combiners on there. I had some combiners on there. Now, my shelf is around 9 inches. I did have to put them into sort of a bit of a crouching pose to fit them, and I could fit them by crouching them just a bit. So they're a little bit bigger than 9-inch, some up to 10-inch, 10.5-inch for these Legends combiners. And with that, you got to kind of think of the Masterpiece scale. You have 18-inch combiners, you have 21-inch combiners, but I'm just going to kind of compare it to the 21-inch combiners. And compared to that, you kind of get into another factor of how many combiners can you fit for Legends, and you can really have a lot of combiners displayed. It's a serious, absolute serious space contribution to display 4 or 5 combiners, not to mention in my display, I could have about, I think I could do 10, 8 or 10 in that one display for Legends. So I'm going to go ahead and carry the combiner and scale conversation into the price. So the price of a Legends scale figure is generally, for a whole combiner set, is generally running between 200, 250, sometimes 275, which is a lot, in my opinion, for a Legends scale combiner. Now, what's the price of a Masterpiece scale? Because, of course, obviously, it's so much bigger. Well, you're seeing on the low end 400 for, say, DX9's Minosaur, and for Fans Toys right now, for their Superion, it is right around, let's say, 1,400, something like that. But you can get different offerings from different companies for a little bit different prices. But when it comes to the price value of it, Legends and Masterpiece are still very expensive compared to like mainline. But comparing them to themselves, Legends are still considerably cheaper, even though there's a whole lot less plastic there. You're not taking up as much space, but is it still giving you the value? And that's kind of in the eye of the beholder. So let's just take the most affordable version of Minosaur, which is 400, versus Magic Square's Minosaur at 250. What's a better value? Getting a Masterpiece one for 400 or a Legends for 250? That's really up to you. That is your opinion. That is your decision that you would have to make. But with that, you're also saying it's less than half the size, but it's not less than half the price. So I got a handful of comparisons I want to make here, but with this point, I'm just going to use this one right here and showing that originally it was $60 for a Masterpiece wheeljack. Now this new wheeljack that's come out from New Age is $38. Okay, I'm looking on Show Z right now, $38. It's sold out too, oddly enough. But the one for New Age is $38, and the original Takara one was $63. And I know times have changed, and you can actually get a KO of it. So I mean, that's a whole other angle to Masterpiece. You can get a knockoff Masterpiece for like $30. So you can actually get the Masterpiece one of this knocked off cheaper than you could get this. But we're just sticking with the Takara for now, because there are some MFT McFans Toys knockoffs of these that are in like the $25 price range. So that's a whole different ball game to get into. But just comparing the price versus aesthetic versus everything you get, what's a better value? Is the like 10-year-old Masterpiece a better value than what we just got with New Age? Now that's completely up to you. 63 versus 38, and that's what's up there. So my next point is paint and presentation. Now I like the designs of Magic Square the most. I do like some McFans Toys designs, but McFans Toys and Magic Square, neither one of them really do present as well when it comes to the paint and presentation. But I do like the design and the aesthetics, the overall look of the Magic Square the most. The design of them is more appealing to me. But very little paint, and very few figures do they offer with actual paint on them. But they still look pretty decent even without the paint. But they don't feel nearly as premium as Masterpiece. And most every Masterpiece figure coming out now from Fans Toys, Takara, and X-Transbots, and then of course KFC and all that, are all getting premium paint jobs. But we're not seeing premium paint jobs on Magic Square. Now when it does come to New Age, they do premium paint. Like presentation to the max. Some of the designs, I'm not a fan of their design. So I'm kind of torn with New Age. Like some of the designs, the figure itself design doesn't look great, even though it presents well. This is one I think they did well in both ways. There's supposed to be some sort of inside leg filler piece. I never got one, but it's not a big deal to me. Anyway, this figure still looks phenomenal. It's got a great design to it, and it also has an excellent presentation when it comes to paint. And this is phenomenal. But it comes with a price, $73, $74 for this figure, for this 5-inch, because he's bigger than the average one, 5-inch figure. And it's impressive, but it does carry a hefty price. Does it present well? Yes. Do every one of New Age figures present well. When it comes to paint, usually. When it comes to design, I don't know. It's an example of it's kind of up to you. I never picked up the New Age Hound because I didn't think that it looked as good as the Magic Square version. I think Magic Squares look better, and New Age runs a little on the smaller side. When it comes to presentation, though, their paint, it presents very well on almost every figure. Now let's get into the transformation. It used to be that Legends scale figures were much easier to transform. For the most part, almost every one of them you can just pick up and not even need instructions to transform it. It's getting more and more complex as they are trying to reach perfection in both modes, as they're becoming more sophisticated in the look. And I gotta say, like, this Megatron is not a fun, easy transformation for Magic Square. It's a very good looking bot. It looks great from all angles. It's not fun, and it's a serious time commitment to flip this thing back and forth. And with that, it's kind of achieving the level of transformation that we got with Masterpiece. But see, that depends on you, though. Some people love a crazy transformation. They want the challenge and to sit there for 30 minutes messing with it. Others want to get through it and just enjoy the other mode for a bit. So it depends on who you are and how you are. But back in the day, in the early days, Legends were way easier to transform, way less steps, and they still get a pass today. Like no articulation hands, they have swappable hands because they're so small. There's a few things Legends get a pass in, like not having true hip flaps on all the figures. But for the most part, they've reached almost the same level of complexity as a Masterpiece. Now we're going to get into reissues, Masterpiece versus the Legends figures. We are starting to see more and more reissues, especially for Magic Square, which seemed to stop doing reissues for a long time. They weren't reissuing their stuff for a long time. Now they're reissuing it more. We know New Age will put like 6 versions of the same figure or character out, but you better pick the one you want when it comes to New Age right away, because they'll make 6 different versions. That first version won't get made again. So it's kind of a different strategy for each of these Legends companies. But when it comes to Masterpiece, it's really, really hit and miss. So for a long time, people were wanting Apache, they were wanting the Bugs, they were wanting a lot of these things to get reissued. And it seemed like some of the stuff got reissued and sat unsold, went on sales, steep clearances for a long time. And I got to tell you that the Fans Toys and the X-Transbots, they see that and they don't see reissuing all their figures as a high priority. They will still do some, but I see less and less reissues in the Masterpiece scale than in the Legends scale. And part of that is because there are less collectors in the Masterpiece than there used to be. But there's a lot more to that topic. But for the most part, less reissues of Masterpiece is kind of a current trend. Now, I think we're sort of in the same spot we were a few years ago, where Masterpiece is very mature in character selection. So, new characters for Masterpiece compared to Legends, and you do start to see that we are getting new characters that haven't been made before in the Masterpiece realm, which we weren't for a while. And it did kind of seem like Legends was going to give us everything and then some before Masterpiece did. But now we're starting to see that with a lot of these main characters already tackled, that we're seeing companies go after more obscure characters and get different characters out. And that is something that's exciting. Legends started to slow down character-wise kind of because they're cannibalizing themselves. See, there's 2 really big players in Legends, and they're wanting to make their own representations. Although there are Dinobots available from DX9 and then upscaled by McFans Toys, there are 2 other companies that want to make their own, make their mark, and they want to make pretty much every figure for G1, and they're doing a good job of that, but they're just not giving us a whole lot of new characters. What they do is repaint old characters or repaint characters they're making to create new characters out of those molds, which is something that New Age does, but there's still a long way to go to retread the ground that Masterpiece has already done and that some other Legends companies have done. So will we get all these new characters we're seeing in MP in Legends soon? It'll probably be a while. And I also want to say that we're seeing companies like Zeta and DX9's getting back into it, but they're Masterpiece companies that started out as Masterpiece, have been Masterpiece, and they're dabbling in the Legends game. And with that, you're starting to see like DX9 seem to be jumping all into the Legends game. And we're seeing this over and over and over with some of these other companies, some of the ones like Zeta and DX9. And it's quite interesting to see this crossover. Like Magic Square looked like they wanted to cross over into Masterpiece, and they made one character, and they've made them twice in a bunch of different color iterations. But there's some crossover between the two. We're seeing it also with Kang Toys and a few others. But it's quite interesting to see where companies think the market's going, because that's the product they start developing for, and start looking towards what Masterpiece companies are putting out Legends and what Legends companies are putting out Masterpiece. I think there's more MP switching offerings to Legends than Legends switching to Masterpiece. So that's my comparison and contrast of Legends versus Masterpiece. And I really was trying to be objective on this one, but I do have my own personal opinions about each company and designs and all of that. I just have to interject that. But if you're trying to decide if you're going to go Legends or if you're going to go Masterpiece, space, budget, character selection, hopefully this was helpful. Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Tradera Hanger out.